Hi, and welcome to Teaching Adults and Test Prep with HSC, High School Equivalency. Meet Joan Silva, who teaches HSC in Modesto. Most teachers know that teaching adults is different than teaching kids. Often the assumption is that adults are motivated because they don't have to be there. They're choosing to be there. But Joan will tell you it's not as simple as that. Maybe if I was teaching a cooking class, I could count on motivated and enthusiastic students, she says. But when you're teaching a GED or HiSET test prep class, it's like reintroducing people to the things they hated and made them drop out in the first place. They're motivated to get past this speed bump in their lives and on to the next thing, but they're not motivated to learn the content. A big part of Joan's job is making the uninteresting interesting. Joan likes to talk strategy with her students. We brainstorm all the things that can go wrong when taking a test, other than not knowing the information. We talk about being too cold or too hot, so wearing layers. We talk about planning on arriving early and visiting the restroom before the test starts, as 2 hours on a HiSET writing test can be longer than they imagine. Joan starts the year by having her students take practice tests so they know exactly where their problem areas are, and to expose them also to the test format. Joan tries to gear her instruction to hit the areas that the majority are struggling with, but she's sure to lead a discussion on how to approach the test format issues as well. They have to understand the structure and the scoring so they can make good decisions during the test. Joan also has her students share their tips for taking multiple choice test questions. They brainstorm things like looking for similar wording, identifying words like not and except that are absolutes, and so change the meaning. They talk about when to skip a question and how to know when to guess. Good pacing can be a big part of a student's success, she adds. Actually, time management is a problem for many of Joan's students, particularly if they are slow readers. When you have so many multiple choice questions, all of those items have to be read before students can answer. So we practiced reading and predicting. Joan even teaches them how to skim and shows them the basics of how speed reading works. It makes them feel more in control, like reading is a muscle-based skill that can be stretched and improved with practice, rather than an innate trait like how tall you are. There's very little fiction on the GED and the HiSET, so Joan focuses her students on reading high-interest nonfiction articles that she gets off the internet from sites like Newsela, which have current news at a variety of reading levels. My students comprehend so much better when they already know something and are interested in the topic. So that's where I start with my comprehension and analysis skill building. When they've improved on those things, then I'll throw in some poetry and memoirs that are not so relevant and are a little harder to understand. One thing Joan does to help improve her students' editing skills to prepare for those types of test questions is a daily oral language sentence at the start of each class. While Joan takes attendance, her students copy and correct the sentence from the board. I make sure it's funny or freaky and filled with mistakes, and I always use the names of students in my class. They have fun correcting them. After a couple of weeks into the semester, Joan will assign students the creation and the correction of the sentences. They take the lead, and it just gets funnier and funnier. Math is another problem area for Joan's students. Often that was the class that made them drop out originally, Joan says. Joan uses a variety of websites and videos to help with math instruction. Khan Academy is a favorite, but there's lots of standalone math videos on YouTube. Joan also has her students keep a math journal where they write down directions for certain types of problems so they know how to solve them. If they just copy my notes, she says, they may or may not remember, but if they make their own memory tools, it really helps. One of the biggest hurdles for Joan's students is their fear about the test itself. If they flunk a few practice tests, they get really down on themselves. It's heartbreaking. Joan tries to combat that by having her students share what their goals are for after they pass the test. And then she posts pictures of their faces superimposed on bodies of people in that profession. She also gets previous students to come back and share their success. Hearing that it can be done from someone who has actually done it makes it real. It makes it possible, Joan says. And when someone passes, we celebrate with cupcakes. It's tradition now. Thanks for watching.